Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulillahi amma ba'd. I want to take a few fawaid, inshallah ta'ala, guys. Few fawaid, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And perhaps you guys may have some questions, inshallah. First faida is Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his book, Sayyid al-Khatir, Captured Thoughts. He says, من الغلط تحميل القلب حفظ الكثير من فنون شتى فإن القلب جارحة من الجوارح وكما أن من الناس من يحمل 100 رطل ومنهم من يعجز عن 20 رطلا فكذلك القلوب. Ibn al-Jawzi, he says here, a very common mistake and a very widespread mistake. He says, تحميل القلب, he says, is to make your heart, and he also means here your mind too. And we know that the scholars of Islam, they had a very long discussion and disagreement on where is a person's aql, his intellect, his thinking. Is it in the heart? Is it in the head? So on and so forth. Or is there a connection between the two? He says a very common mistake and a very widespread mistake is to make your heart to bear and to memorize and to preserve the memorization of many things from various arts, various fields, and various disciplines. Why is this a common mistake or big mistake? Why is this a ghalat or min al-ghalat? He says, فَإِنَّ الْقَلْبَ جَارِحَةٌ مِنَ الْجَوَارِحِ. He says that the heart is like a limb. The heart is an organ. It's a part of the body, no different than the other parts. He says, what can man? He says there are some men that are very strong. In our modern times, we don't use a ratal or a ratal, we use pounds. There are people who can bench press 400 pounds, 500 pounds, 300 pounds, 200 pounds, 100 pounds. And there are some people that are physically weak that can barely bench press 50 pounds or 70 pounds, let alone 200, 250, etc. People, they squat, people, they curl, people, they do different types of physical exercises. They vary. He says, فَكَذَلِكَ الْقُلُوبِ. He says, and that is the case of the hearts. The hearts are not of the same amount of strength. Some hearts are stronger than others. Some minds are stronger than others. So the point is that I want to study right now, as a beginner, I want to study fiqh, aqidah, tawheed, manhaj, tafsir, lugha al-arabiya, this one, that one, this sheikh, this class, this university, this online program, etc. He says, min al-ghalat. That's wrong. That's a mistake. And that's because if you go into the gym trying to pick up every piece of iron, every dumbbell, you try to bench press and squat and pull and curl and twist, all of that, you're going to hurt yourself. Your body's going to be extremely sore the next day, and there's a big possibility that you'll quit and you'll give up. You have the zeal and the vigor on day 1, day 2, day 3, you're going to fall, you're going to drop off, all right? Let alone if you break your back or injure your neck or injure your arms or pop your knee or your ACL or whatever the case may be. He says, so this is a common mistake that many people, he says, تحميل القلب حفظ الكثير من فنون شتى, is making and forcing your heart and your mind to memorize many things from many different disciplines and arts. And we understand the opposite of the kalam of Ibn al-Jawzi, not Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawzi, Ibn al-Jawzi, who died before Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah. Ibn al-Jawzi of the 6th century, he said that min fununin shatta, meaning if you force your heart and your mind to memorize a lot of fannin wahid, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Or if you have hifz al-qalil, al-qadr al-mutawassit min fununin shatta, falaysa min al-ghalat idhan. It's not a mistake to have a little bit of all of the sciences and to memorize them and to force yourself to retain them and to stuff them in your heart and your head. It's not a mistake. So it's not always about quantity. It's not always about quality. Sometimes quantity, sometimes quality, sometimes small, bigger, sometimes size does matter. And it depends on you as a person. So countless brothers and sisters, they come up and they say they want to seek knowledge, they want to study, they want to go overseas, they want to tazkiyah. What book should I start off with? Which sheikh should I sit with? What seerah book, etc., etc. Take it easy. Realize that the brain, the heart, the qalb, it's a muscle. And if you work it too much, too fast, you're going to hurt yourself. And you may not recover from that injury. You may not recover from that piece of pain. You may not recover from that tear or that rip. So be mindful of that. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Seek knowledge in progressive steps. فَسَالَتْ أَوْدِيَةٌ بِقَدْرِهَا. Allah tells us that the valleys, they flow in their due measure. Not too much, not too little, just enough rain, just enough herbage, just enough dirt and sand and mud, the animals there, the wildlife, etc. بِقَدْرِهَا. Based off of what it's supposed to be. So one of the most important ways of successfully being a student of knowledge and becoming a student of knowledge is you have to learn that your muscles aren't that strong overnight. And it takes time, it takes progressive steps, and you have to have a trainer or coach in the gym. Another very important point is the opposite. Let's reverse this law now. Let's reverse this wisdom, and let's say that if you don't work out, your muscles will never grow. You'll never be cut or ripped right if you don't work out. And if you take 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, slow, peace, gradual, teacher, sheikh, you'll never get anywhere. So you do have to push yourself. You do have to take baby steps. You do have to take leaps. You do have to jump. You do have to grow it. You got to sweat a little bit. You got to feel some pain in the gym, but it's a balance. So slow, leap. Slow, leap. And every time you take a leap, try to take a bigger and greater leap. But after those small, tiny baby steps, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, think about a child. The child stands up. The child, it pulls your leg. It falls down. The child sits up. And every time the child grows, its legs get stronger, its hands, its arms, the coordination, the motor skills, the child becomes, you have to watch the child even more. Gradually. So the child, it does put forth effort, all right? But not prematurely. So it's a balance. And the best person to show you this balance is your teacher, is your mentor. But you yourself, you have a responsibility without your teacher, without your mentor, and that is to be hungry. And that is to have diligence with regards to seeking knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and we ask him to benefit us, inshallah ta'ala. So any questions? We're going to try to take some now. Bi'idhnillah.
Initials OR, Springfield, Virginia. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Is it permissible to cut off another Muslim who takes you away from the worship of Allah?
Cutting off another Muslim who takes you from the worship of Allah. Give that person nasiha if you can. What type of relationship do you have with the other Muslim? Is your friend, your brother, your cousin, your father, your teacher, your student, somebody you used to do haram with or not? What's the relationship that you have with that person? And many people, when they make tawbah, they don't realize that you have to make tawbah. You have to stay away from the haram places, the haram people. But this person may have a haqq. They may have a right on you as a friend. And you just can't just forsake them 100%. Unless the person was totally evil and they're not respecting your space and the fact that you're trying to make tawbah and move forward. So give them nasiha. Try to help them out. And you don't want the people to accuse you and attack you and say, oh, you're arrogant, or you think that you're better than us now. You think that you're more religious, you're more pious, so on and so forth. Wallahu alam.
Initials Anwar Ali, I'm London, UK. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ways to call away from something that's against the Quran and Sunnah when it's socially acceptable.
Ways to do what?
Call away from something against the Quran and Sunnah when it's socially acceptable.
Explain to the Muslims the purpose of their creation. That you're created, you're made to worship Allah. And from worshiping Allah is obeying Him. And you're not made to fit in or to go with the cultural norm or the trend. That's simple. Remind them of why they're alive. Allah created us to worship Him, to obey Him, not to be socially accepted. And if it's about social acceptance, the Prophet ﷺ would have given his da'wah to Quraysh, because it was socially unacceptable. He was young, calling people who were older than him. He was telling them that their ancestors were ignorant and foolish by worshiping idols and doing the things that they did in Jahiliyyah. So Islam is never based off of cultural acceptance as a whole. Wallahu alam.
Initials OS, Country Club Hills, Illinois. Is one wudu valid if their hands become dry after wiping over their head, so they wet their fingers to wipe their ears?
Say the question again, please.
Is one's wudu valid if their hands become dry after wiping over their head, so they wet their fingers to wipe their ears?
Tayyib, there's a two-pronged question. Number one is, what happens if your hands become wet before you reach the next part of your body? And two, if they do become wet, or even if they don't, should you take new water for your ears? As far as the first part of the question, The many of the scholars of Islam, they say that there are conditions for wudu to be valid and obligations for the wudu to be correct. And from them is al-muwalah, is that the wudu has to be done in succession. It has to be one piece, one act of ibadah, and that is one part of the body is not supposed to be dry before you reach the next part of the body, fi az-zaman al-mu'tadil, during normal circumstances. Meaning, if it's extremely hot outside, your hands get dry, that's one thing. It's extremely cold, that's one thing. An emergency, that's one thing. But if everything is normal, you should not wait 30 seconds, a minute until washing the next body part. Your hands should not get dry if you're making wudu in the sink. Abadan. Unless it's extremely hot and dry. And if you do wait that long, then according to those scholars, your wudu is invalid. All right? As far as even if your hands were still wet, some scholars hold the view that you should take new water for the ears. And that hadith is not authentic. Okay? He took new water for his ears. And the same water for the head is the same water for the ears. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam.
Muhammad Salah Farwaniya Kuwait. What does وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ mean? جزاك الله خيرا.
Question is from our brother from Kuwait, Muhammad Salah. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ, you will not will unless Allah wills. Allah, Rabbul Alameen. Simple. Is that the servant has a will. The servant wants. But the servant's will and the servant's want comes after what Allah wants and after what Allah wills. So Allah decrees, and we want things, but it's only based off what the Allah's qadr is going to be. So right now, I want to go on spring break. But COVID-19, Allah willed COVID-19. And He willed these people to shut these things down. I have a will. Allah has a will. And the slave's will is tabi'ani mashi'atillah. Comes after Allah Azza wa Jall's will. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials AB London UK. Is the story of Tha'laba authentic?
Please specify exactly what you mean.
Initials SH Ostrova Czech Republic. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Do you know if it's recommended to fast the whole of Sha'ban? Jazakallahu khair.
Question is from where?
Ostrova Czech Republic.
Question comes from Ostrova, Czech Republic. Should you fast the entire month of Sha'ban? The Prophet ﷺ, as Aisha radiallahu anha and others narrated, would fast many, many days in Sha'ban. Much of Sha'ban, if not the majority of it. We have explained this. Please go back to a lecture that we did on the 5th of fasting in the month of Sha'ban. All right? If a person wants to fast the majority of the month based off of those authentic narrations, la ba's. And if you want to do the 3 days, Monday, Thursday, etc., that's fine as well. The hadith about not fasting when the middle of Sha'ban comes is inauthentic. It's not sahih. So there's nothing wrong with fasting the majority of the month of Sha'ban. That's from the Sunnah. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials R.A. Richmond, California. Assalamu alaikum. I had a dream I was praying in the snow. Please interpret. Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah bless you with another wife. Say Ameen. Love you for the sake of Allah.
Question is from Cali. I had a dream I was praying in the snow. Please interpret that. May Allah bless you, akhi or ukhti. May Allah Azza wa Jalla give you all good and all of us all good, that which we need of good. Allahumma ameen. Allahu a'lam, the meaning of your dream. You have to give us some more specifics of the dream and also specifics of your life. Cold weather, precipitation has a general meaning. We know that water, hail, snow, things like this are generally used for cleaning and wiping, rinsing things away. That's a general meaning of these things in a dream. But it could mean something else as well. Because snow could also be a means of disaster. Rain could also be a means of fitna, as is mentioned, all right? So it depends. You got to give us a bit more specific information, inshallah ta'ala. And interpreting dreams is a responsibility and it's dangerous. Wallahu alam.
Initials A.N. Springfield, Virginia. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. May Allah bless you immensely. Maybe this is a good time for a reminder of the Radi class while you are free from traveling to give lessons, if time allows.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan.
Initials S.N. Melbourne, Australia. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Can one make wudu in the shower, for example, after coming back from the gym?
Yes, making wudu in the shower is fine. As long as you fulfill the conditions of wudu, there's no prohibition of that. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulih nabiyina wa imamina.